Imagine if you could physically feel the tension in your arms and shoulders as you draw back your bowstring, aiming for a snarling goblin in a virtual world. Sounds pretty epic, right? Thanks to Wonderfitter, the sponsor of this video, this integration between virtual and real experiences is finally possible. But is it worth a $169 accessory? Watch this video as I will break down the gameplay and mechanics for Tiny Archers VR, show you how the Artemis bow can be integrated into the gameplay, and answer whether or not this is a game-winning combination. So to start, let me show you the features and highlights of Tiny Archers VR. You are the greatest archer the realm has ever seen, and you've been tasked with defending the kingdom from a goblin and orc invasion. Starting at the edge of the city, the enemy seems innocent enough, but as the attacking hordes get closer to the castle, they become more and more sophisticated, attacking with bombs and fireballs, all while you have to duck the rain of incoming arrows. Only the strongest defense will hold against the orc invasion. So how do you prepare yourself for this final challenge? Tiny Archers is a traditional tower defense archery game where each level you clear unlocks a new one. In addition, there are side quests to complete and minigames to play for added variety. Each level has 5 different challenges, and you're rewarded with a star for every one that you complete. Because these stars are needed to upgrade your bow, you'll likely have to return to each level more than once. Tiny Archers was originally developed for flat screen and mobile devices in 2016, and so far it has over 10 million downloads from the Google Play Store. But because Tiny Archers is an adaptation of a 2D game, it is missing some of the immersive mechanics that we see in other VR games, such as having to reach for your arrow and manually dock it on the bow. Once you fire an arrow, a new one just magically appears in its place, ready for you to draw again. I personally don't mind this too much, as I found the docking mechanics in other games is often quite glitchy, but it does take away from the overall feel of the game. With waves of enemies constantly coming towards you, this fire mechanics allows you to move quickly and gets your heart rate up, which is a good thing. And this is not the only fitness benefit of Tiny Archers VR, and I'll cover more about that shortly. But first, let me introduce you to what really sets this game apart from any other VR game. Being an avid VR user, you're always looking for the next thing, that special piece that will take your VR experience from good to epic. This is why you got so excited when you first heard about a VR accessory that would allow you to engage the muscles in your back and arms as you pull back the bowstring and feel the vibration in your hand as the arrow takes flight, instantly releasing any built-up tension. This is the type of immersive gaming experience you've been waiting for. But does reality meet the expectations? Tiny Archers VR is unique in its compatibility with the Artemis bow from Wonderfitter. The Artemis bow is easy to assemble, lightweight, and with a 10-pound draw weight, it delivers a nice balance between added resistance and the ability to quickly fire multiple arrows. The bow is compatible with Meta Quest 2, 3, and 3S, and it's easily connected via Bluetooth and by placing the VR controller in the dedicated bow attachments. Once you're done with the initial pairing of the bow through the devices option on your Quest headset, start up Tiny Archers and enable the Artemis bow controller feature in settings. Enabling the Artemis bow restricts your gameplay options to only include the arcade mode, but all your progress still counts towards your achievements in the main game. The big drawback of entering the Artemis mode is the loss of guidelines. Removing the aiming guideline makes hitting your target significantly more challenging, and it might take some time to get used to. If you're finding it hard to aim when using the bow, here's a tip. Spend some time adjusting the position of your VR controller in the bow attachment, and specifically try to tilt it upward as much as possible. I always double check my aim and calibration in the lobby, and it makes the gameplay a lot more enjoyable. But if you want to chase the top of the leaderboards, removing the guidelines gives a 3 times score bonus for each level cleared, and using the Artemis bow add another 500 points on top of that. Using the Artemis bow also have the added benefit of improving the workout that Tiny Archers VR can provide. Archery can improve your posture and help reduce back pain while strengthening your shoulders, arms, and core muscles. Combine that with constantly turning and moving to locate the attacking goblins and ducking away from the incoming arrow attacks, Tiny Archers and the Artemis bow can give you a better workout than any other similar game. But even though the Artemis bow provides a fun, challenging, and immersive experience, the big question still remains. Is it worth it? The main reason for getting a VR accessory is to make the gameplay experience better. For the Artemis bow, that means making the game more immersive while also getting a better workout. And at first glance, it delivers. Releasing an arrow to land a headshot is 100 times more rewarding after having to physically pull back on the bowstring and find the perfect aim without the guidelines. And although I work up a sweat when playing Tiny Archers with just the regular Quest controllers, the added strength training I get from using the Artemis bow gives me so many more benefits than just doing cardio. However, there are some issues that need to be addressed. It is frustrating having to wiggle the controller around in the attachments to find the perfect aim every time I start up the game. And it's something that seems completely unnecessary. Although it's great to have an attachment that works for both Quest 2 and Quest 3 controllers, I would prefer if they were separate and just kept each controller steady so that the installation and calibration is consistent between each use. The graphics surrounding this integration could also use some polishing. I've already addressed how Tiny Archers VR skips the need to knock your arrow before drawing it, but the Artemis integration also removes the draw animation, leaving the bow constantly pulled back. This can make it challenging to grab the string accurately and breaks the immersion as your movements just don't match the visuals. I'm also confused as to why using the Artemis bow removes several game features, like the ability to level up your bow or the mini-games to win free specialty arrows. The Artemis bow is integrated with Tiny Archers via an SDK, which is a software component that developers can choose to add to their games. Although Tiny Archers is the only game currently using this extension, technically any game could integrate it. So, is the Artemis bow worth getting? The answer will come down to how much you appreciate the added immersion and workout a VR accessory provides, and whether or not you're willing to deal with the current imperfections. I have to admit that there was a 10 to 20 minute period when I was incredibly frustrated with the bow and couldn't seem to hit a single goblin. But once I found the sweet spot for my controller alignment, I had a lot of fun. And now I just can't see myself playing Tiny Archers without it. I just need to find a slightly bigger space so that I can look down over the tower edge without bumping the aiming module into my wall. While I hope that Wonderfitter will continue to polish their SDK graphics and that more developers choose to integrate the Artemis bow in their games, I've linked their order page in the description, and if you're curious about how to set up the bow and some of the other technical aspects, then you should watch this video next.